welcome back to Car Alerts. When you think of adventure motorcycles, your mind often jumps straight to the heavyweights, the big 1,000 cubic centimeters and 1,200 cubic centimeters machines that dominate the segment, with their towering stance, endless tech, and price tags that sometimes rival a small car. But what if you want the adventure experience in a more compact, approachable, and affordable package? That's exactly where the 2025 Kawasaki Versys X 300 comes in. Kawasaki has built a machine that blends versatility, ease of use, and enough capability to explore beyond the pavement, all while keeping it accessible to riders of all levels. The Versys X 300 isn't just the smallest member of the Versys family, it's also the gateway to adventure touring for riders who might find the big bikes intimidating. And in its 2025 iteration, Kawasaki has refined this machine to be smoother, more modern, and still one of the most well-rounded entry-level adventure tourers on the market. The first thing you notice when you walk up to the Versys X 300 is how welcoming it looks. It's tall and upright, yes, but it's not overwhelming. The seat height sits at a manageable 32.1 inches, which strikes a great balance, tall enough for ground clearance and adventure-style ergonomics, but not so high that shorter riders will feel alienated. The bike feels narrow at the waist, which makes getting your feet down easier than you'd expect, even for riders who hover around the 5'6" mark. And when you step back, you can't help but admire Kawasaki's design language here. The sharp lines on the fairing, the adventure-style beak, and the upright stance give it that rugged, go-anywhere look, while the green and black color scheme reminds you that this is still very much a Kawasaki. It has presence without trying too hard, and that makes it approachable yet respectable in the parking lot or at the cafe stop. But let's talk about what makes this bike tick. At the heart of the 2025 Versys X 300 is the same 296 cubic centimeters parallel twin engine that Kawasaki has perfected over the years, most notably in bikes like the Ninja 300. For this adventure application, the motor has been retuned for smoother low and mid-range delivery, while still revving freely up top. It makes around 39 horsepower and 27 Nm of torque, which doesn't sound like earth-shattering numbers, but in practice, this engine feels lively, efficient, and extremely user-friendly. The twin-cylinder configuration is one of its greatest strengths. It's smoother and more refined than the single-cylinder engines you'll find in some competitors, especially on longer rides where vibrations can wear you down. Kawasaki designed this engine to be comfortable for sustained highway speeds, and it shows. Cruising at 110 to 120 km per hour feels effortless, and when you twist the throttle to overtake, the engine willingly climbs into its higher revs without protest. For a 300 class adventure bike, that's impressive. Fuel efficiency is another area where this engine shines. On average, you're looking at around 28 to 30 km per liter, depending on your riding style and terrain. Pair that with a 17-liter fuel tank, and you've got a range that can comfortably stretch beyond 400 km on a single fill. That's proper adventure touring territory right there. You can load up the bike with luggage, hit the highway, and not have to worry about refueling every couple of hours, which is a big deal if you're planning those long weekend rides or even light cross-country trips. Handling is one of the standout characteristics of the Versys X 300. Kawasaki has given this bike a steel backbone frame that's built for stability and confidence. At 184 kilograms wet, it's light enough to manage easily, especially at lower speeds, but it still has that planted feel when you're pushing it through corners or cruising down the highway. The long travel suspension. 41 mm telescopic forks at the front and a unitrack rear shock soaks up bumps and rough patches surprisingly well. Now, this isn't a hardcore off-road machine like a dedicated dirt bike, but it can absolutely handle gravel roads, light trails, and unpaved sections without making you sweat. The 19-inch front wheel and 17-inch rear wheel setup is a smart choice, striking a balance between stability off-road and agility on-road. Add in dual-purpose tires, and you've got a machine that really embraces that X in its name, crossover, versatile, ready for different riding environments. Braking duties are handled by a single 290 mm pedal disc up front and a 220 mm disc at the rear, with ABS as standard. The brakes aren't overly aggressive, which actually works in the bike's favor for new riders. They're progressive and predictable, giving you confidence whether you're riding in traffic, descending a mountain road, or managing traction on loose surfaces. Kawasaki has clearly designed this package with real-world usability in mind rather than chasing spec sheet bragging rights. Comfort is another area where the Versys X300 excels. The upright riding position, wide handlebars, and roomy seat all contribute to a relaxed posture. You don't feel cramped, even on longer rides, and the windscreen does a surprisingly good job of deflecting air away from your chest at highway speeds. For taller riders, it's high enough to reduce fatigue, and for shorter riders, it doesn't obstruct the view ahead. The pillion seat is also decently sized, making it possible to take a passenger along for the ride, which isn't always the case with smaller capacity adventure bikes. Kawasaki also offers plenty of accessories: hard panniers, top cases, engine guards, auxiliary lights, so you can kit out the Versys X300 for serious touring duty if that's your plan. One of the unique selling points of this bike is how balanced it feels. Many entry-level adventure bikes either lean too heavily toward road use, sacrificing off-road credibility, or go too rugged and end up feeling compromised on the highway. The Versys X300 threads the needle beautifully. It's comfortable on the road, stable at speed, efficient with fuel, and still competent enough to take on unpaved adventures when the opportunity arises. For someone who wants one bike to do it all: to commute during the week, tour on the weekends, and occasionally explore a dirt road, it's hard to find something that matches the Versys X300 at this price point. Speaking of price, let's talk numbers. For 2025, the Kawasaki Versys X300 comes in at around $6,300 in the US market. That's incredibly competitive for what you're getting. It undercuts some of the larger entry-level adventure tourers, while offering more refinement than budget single-cylinder options. And when you factor in Kawasaki's reputation for reliability and the wide dealer network, you're looking at a machine that's not just affordable upfront but also economical to own in the long run. Design-wise, Kawasaki has made some subtle updates for 2025 to keep the Versys X300 looking fresh. The LED headlight is sharper and brighter than before, giving it a modern face and better night visibility. The instrument cluster combines an analog tachometer with a digital display for speed, fuel, gear position, and trip data, striking a balance between classic and contemporary. It's simple, easy to read, and gives you all the information you need without distraction. The overall fit and finish is impressive for a bike in this segment. The paint quality, panel gaps, and switchgear feel premium, reminding you that Kawasaki has been doing this for decades and knows how to build a bike that lasts. If there's one thing to keep in mind, it's that this bike isn't meant to be a powerhouse. If you're chasing big horsepower numbers, the Versys X300 isn't for you. But if you value versatility, refinement, and the ability to comfortably cover both city commutes and long-distance journeys, this bike fits the bill beautifully. It's the kind of motorcycle that grows with you as a rider. Beginners will love its approachability, intermediate riders will appreciate its long-distance comfort, and even seasoned adventurers might keep one as a lightweight, reliable companion for everyday use. That wraps up our in-depth look at the 2025 Kawasaki Versys X300. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Bike Culture Hub, and let us know in the comments. Where would you take the Versys X300 on your first big ride? Until next time, ride safe, and keep the adventure alive.